All right, let's dive right in. We're here to talk about the huge 2026 updates from the GSCs. That's Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and what this seismic shift really means for you as a reserve analyst. The source material doesn't pull any punches. It calls these changes a profound and irreversible transformation. So, right off the bat, we know this isn't just another memo with some minor policy tweaks. This is a total rewrite of the rules for managing condominium risk and finance in the US. So, the big question is, what does this all mean for you? For your job, for the reports you write, for your liability, and really for your entire role within this industry? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down right now. Okay, here's our game plan. We'll start with how the market got transformed. Then we'll get into the specifics of the new rulebook. After that, we'll focus on your new reality as an analyst, look at the ripple effects across the whole industry, and wrap up with your powerful new role as a kind of quasi-regulator. So, let's set the stage. How did we even get to this point? Well, this whole thing wasn't born in a boardroom. It was triggered by a single, tragic event that sent shockwaves through the industry and forced everyone to take a hard look at systemic risk. It all started back in June 2021 with the horrific collapse of Champlain Towers South. That tragedy was a wake-up call. In its aftermath, Fannie and Freddie started tightening the screws year after year to deal with the huge risks of deferred maintenance and, you guessed it, underfunded reserves. And all of that led to the sweeping updates announced in March 2026, which are now coming into full effect. And that brings us to the new rulebook. Honestly, the best way to think about it is a shift from a pretty lenient, flexible system to one that is completely locked down when it comes to underwriting. Maybe the biggest change of all is the death of the limited review. I mean, this was the go-to for something like 40% of condo loans. It let lenders just skip the deep dive. Well, that's over. Poof. Gone. Now, pretty much every single loan is going to be forced into a mandatory, super rigorous full review. We're talking about lenders scrutinizing every single line item. And this chart just lays it all out in black and white. Limited review? Gone. Reserve funding? Jumps from a 10% minimum to 15%. And your reserve studies? They're not just helpful guides anymore. They're essentially binding documents. And look at the validity. A strict 36-month shelf life. And to top it off, insurance deductibles have skyrocketed. Let's just focus on this number for a second. 15%. That is the new mandatory reserve allocation for any association that doesn't have a current reserve study. It's not a suggestion, it's not a goal, it is their new hard and fast reality. And this number, 36 months, this is all about urgency. Any reserve study that's even a day older than 3 years is now considered worthless in the eyes of a lender. It's a hard stop, which for you means there is now a permanent, recurring demand for your expertise. Now, this is about risk, and specifically about shifting a massive amount of risk directly onto homeowners. The max per unit deductible for a master policy is now a staggering $50,000. This means individual owners are on the hook for a potentially huge gap in coverage if they're not careful. Okay, now for the most important part. Let's get to the heart of it. How does all this stuff actually change your world as a reserve analyst? Well, the short version is this. Your role just got a massive upgrade, from advisor to, believe it or not, an authority. First things first, let's talk about a funding method you know all too well, baseline funding. For years, this has been the favorite trick for boards who wanted to keep assessments as low as humanly possible, right? It's that financial high-wire act, calculating the absolute bare minimum to keep the bank account from hitting zero. No safety net. Well, guess what? The show is over. The GSAs have now explicitly, unequivocally banned the baseline funding method. You can't even present it as an option in a reserve study anymore. That high-risk gamble is officially off the table. For good. And here it is. This is the sentence that changes absolutely everything for you. If a community is using one of your reserve studies, their budget must adopt the highest recommended reserve allocation amount. Think about that. If you give them 3 options, the lender is going to force them to use the most expensive, most conservative one. So what does that one rule mean for you? Well, it changes everything. Your role instantly shifts. You become a quasi-regulator. Your liability goes through the roof because your reports are now binding documents for lenders. You're going to feel intense, and I mean intense, pressure from boards to keep that highest recommendation low. So what's the move? The smart play is to standardize your reports. Offer one single bulletproof funding plan that you can defend. And with all this new power comes, you guessed it, higher standards. Fannie Mae is now getting really specific about who they consider a qualified professional. They're looking for specialized credentials, a background in construction engineering, or a CPA who knows reserve methodologies inside and out. The result? A permanent, massive demand for experts who are the real deal. Now, you're not going to be working in a vacuum. To really navigate this new world, you have to understand the incredible pressure your clients are under. So let's look at the ripple effects this is having everywhere else. Man, everyone is feeling the heat, and you need to get this too to manage your client relationships. HOA boards, they are stuck between a rock and a hard place. They either have to pass these huge mandatory assessment hikes or face furious homeowners and, very possibly, lawsuits. Management companies are literally drowning in new paperwork, and every questionnaire they sign comes with massive liability. And the homeowners, they're getting hit with higher dues while staring down the barrel of their property values getting crushed. And this is the nightmare scenario. This is the non-warrantable death spiral that your work now directly prevents. If a board doesn't comply with the rules, that's it. The project gets blacklisted by Fannie Mae. All conventional mortgage money just vanishes. Property values can tank by 30% or more. And then the cash investors start circling, picking up units for pennies on the dollar. All right, let's pull all these threads together. What's the final verdict? What does this new world order truly mean for you, the reserve analyst? Bottom line, your job has fundamentally, irreversibly changed. You used to be a financial advisor, a consultant who offered options. Now, you are a de facto regulator. You are the gatekeeper for mortgage underwriting. It's your math that decides whether a community gets access to financing. So let's just hammer home the key takeaways. Number one, your math is now, for all intents and purposes, law. Number two, baseline funding is dead and buried. Number three, that highest recommended allocation in your report, that's the new mandatory minimum. And finally, number four, the demand for your qualified expert analysis isn't going anywhere. It's permanent. And we'll leave you with this final thought. Your models, your calculations, your professional recommendations, they now literally determine the financial survival of entire communities. The stakes have never, ever been this high. So the only question left is, are you ready?